Welcome again, family, to another dynamic edition of the Global Leaders Roundtable. Listen, this is the Fireside Chat edition, and I'm your host, Kenyon R. Dudley, speaker and global leadership strategist, and founder of this great and growing global platform built to equip kingdom leaders with clarity, confidence, and conviction. For those of you who are just getting an opportunity to meet me for the first time, welcome in. Thank you for joining the ecosystem that we're building here, full of kingdom leaders all over the world. And my life's mission is simple. It's to say something that transforms someone's life, and hopefully that will allow them to be transcended in their thinking and their mind. And we do this through this kingdom-centered conversation platform where we challenge culture, we ignite purpose, and we restore power back to the voices that have been overlooked and underheard. If you're watching right now on the YouTube channel, thank you so much for being over there, a part of the community. Why don't you tag, like, and share? And then most of all, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, TGLR Network. We're actually going to be having more content that's added to that page. You do not want to miss it. We've got so much coming up. I can't even begin to explain it all. But listen, for those of you who do know me and those of you who don't, you'll get a chance to know that I've been in ministry as a leader. I've also been in corporate America as a leader, but also I have had my hand in entertainment and production. That's my background. So bringing all those worlds together, the content that we're about to share, as you could imagine, is going to be entertaining and most impactful. So make sure that you're subscribed to the channel for all that is to come. Now, I only got one announcement before we go into our conversation with my new brother that I've just met today. I'm super excited about having this discussion that we're about to have. But for those of you who do not know, we have the Global Leaders Virtual Summit coming up September the 20th through the 21st. And we're going to be talking about global kingdom leadership and what that looks like in every sphere of influence. Guys, we've got folks from the medical field. We've got folks from ministry, from education, government. We've got individuals from entertainment all over. They are coming from all over the world, from South Africa, Germany, London, Canada, you name it, all over the United States. They're going to be sharing their big ideas, their revelations, their leadership journey, and the things that they've employed in their journey to make them most impactful. You do not want to miss these leaders who are going to be sharing alongside me. So go to bit.ly/TGLR Virtual Summit now and make sure you get your tickets. And also, if you want to be a speaker, I think we have about 2 more weeks for open enrollment. If you want to be a speaker and to share what you're doing in your business and company, you can apply there as well to be a speaker. All right, guys, let's jump into this conversation. Today's guest is a true example of resilience, excellence, and kingdom-minded leadership. Schwartzen Precil is a business leader, author, strategist, and community builder who carries a powerful anointing to shift culture through clarity, education, and faith. From student success to marketplace excellence, Schwartzen has been committed to breaking generational curses, empowering others through authorship, and cultivating an abundance mindset in the face of resistance and pressure. Today, we're diving into a conversation that touches faith, identity, legacy, and leadership from the perspective of a man who has built and was built for this moment. Help me welcome to the virtual roundtable, the Global Leaders Roundtable, the brilliant, the bold, Mr. Schwartzen Precil. What's going on, my brother?
Man, appreciate you. Appreciate the intro, can you, man? I appreciate it, man. Thank you for being
Indeed.
here.
Indeed, man. I appreciate all of you, what you're doing. I've had an opportunity to kind of look at over some things before we came live. And so, I always believe in, giving the props where the props are due, right?
Yeah, man.
So
I gotta have you do my intro every time, man. That's for sure, man.
hire me on the team. I got you
Let's get
covered.
it. Let's get it.
So talk to me, man. Let's jump in to this conversation. What we're talking about today, guys, is built for this: leadership, resilience, and Black excellence. And I find that to be a most interesting topic that we're going to discuss. First of all, before we jump in, why don't you officially introduce yourself to everybody? What part of the world are you in, man? And what is it that God has you doing?
Well, thank you, Kenyon. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share on this platform. My name is Schwartzen Precil. Those in the spoken word world, the poetry world, know me as Shway. That's a nickname that was given to me. I was about 15 when I was a dancer. I'm originally from New York City,
Okay.
and early in the YouTube, back when YouTube was first coming out around 2010, 2009,
Hmm.
I started dancing, just being a energetic kid. Dancing
Hmm.
was a way for me to outlet from the inner city neighborhoods of Staten Island. That's where I'm from. I'm from the Bronx, New York, as well,
Okay.
and that's where I'm currently at right now as we're recording. But I currently reside in Oakland, California, and so dancing, spoken word, I learned when I became a Christian at 19 years old when I finally gave my life to Christ. And essentially, basketball was also what that third thing. If I had to say three
Yeah.
things that kind of navigated how I thought about myself in culture, in the world, it was dancing, it was spoken word slash poetry, and then basketball took me to college, and eventually I got my degree in business management, entrepreneurship. Went away on a scholarship, played overseas for a few years, and then I was able to write a few books, which we'll talk about that, and then launch a business in 2019. And so
Yeah.
a little bit of
Yeah,
my
man.
background. Mm-hmm.
I mean, talk about Black excellence. I love this, man. You are one of the ones that is really setting a great example right now for our generation, and I appreciate you, man. Talk about that. I mean, you obviously you're a creative, but you're also in education, but you're a writer. Um, Talk about how those worlds really came to be for you. Did it start with just being an outlet, or what was that thing that made you say, you know what, I want to tap into my creative side?
Yeah, I believe everybody is born with talents and abilities to
Mhm.
succeed, right? God-given gifts. It's all about how we channel it.
Yeah.
I believe the level of our success is only determined by the level of our exposure.
Hmm.
And so, growing up in inner city, New York City, Staten Island, and in the Bronx, I only had limited exposure. I like to say, when you grow up on a block and you only want to be under the sheep in the flock, you was one of two things: you would sweep with the mic, or you handled the rock, right? And that's part of
Wow.
my original piece called "I'm a Bronxite." And essentially, hip hop was big in the Bronx, and then eventually I got moved to Staten Island, which
Yeah.
was really heavy in basketball culture. And so basketball, football, and I took a liking to basketball. And
Yeah.
so those were my creative outlets at one point. It wasn't until I got to college where basketball was that avenue to get me exposed to college that I began to see myself as a writer, that I
Okay.
began to see myself outside of just the neighborhood antics, right? It was some gang violence going on. Unfortunately for me, I was, put in foster care system at the age of 1. I
Wow.
like to say, but I was orphaned at the age of 1. By the time I was 13, I had held my first gun.
Wow.
I was with my 2-year-old brother, and so we had to find this survivalist mentality. When he left Staten Island, he went away to college, and he never looked back. He ain't been back since. I come back, and I have a story to tell.
Yeah.
Annually, I'm doing my 7th year anniversary of an annual talk I gave in my house high school. I'm one of the only brothers that come back and give back in that way.
Hmm.
I'm sure a lot of neighborhoods that we know across the country. I've been around the world and across the country. We have crabs in a barrel mentality.
Oh
Once we
yeah.
make it out that barrel, we don't want to come back because a lot of people who hate, a lot of naysayers and
Yeah.
all of that. I believe God sends us out into those areas after we liberate it out to help
Hmm.
them. Now, I'm not saying stay there forever and all
Of
that, because
course.
even Jesus only did limited miracles in his hometown, right? Because they're too familiar. And so for
Yeah.
me, it was essentially when I became a writer and author, I'm like, the peers I can influence my peers, I can inspire them, but it's really the younger generation.
Yeah.
Who did I need to become in order for me to help my younger self? Who is it that needs help so I can pull them back and trying to help them, through this thing we call life? And
Yeah.
I'm a wholehearted believer of I found writing in college when God found me in a low place in the rock bottom season of my life. And it was all she wrote after that.
Man, this is amazing. And so your story is really a story of resilience, coming from the inner city and really weaving through being an orphan is and being a part of the foster care system. Like, what's going on in the mind of a young man like that? Because this platform goes out to so many different people from different walks of life. But one of the things that I strive to make sure we understand and hope that we understand as a global community is that we're really all one and the same. You may come from, Germany, or you may come from South Africa, but you're no different than a Schwartzen who's actually in the inner city of New York trying to really find his way. So what's going on in your mind and your head during these early years,
Yeah.
when you're having to navigate such, uh,
Yeah.
you know, situations like this?
Yeah. One thing well, now that I'm conscious, let me say that. Now I'm more conscious about what I've been through. Um, Essentially, every child has an imagination, right?
Right.
Hopefully, the parents do a good job channeling that, being creative, right? Every child is born with a specific imagination.
Hmm.
And so being able to imagine and dream is kind of what I do now to inspire young people, let them know it's okay to dream. I carried a lot of stories of not just myself in those group homes and foster homes, but those
Hmm.
who were around me.
Yep.
Essentially, my main foster home that eventually adopted me when I was 15. There was two sisters. Not they weren't related to each other, but it was who I call my foster sisters. They
Hmm.
had their own traumas and struggles. Young black ladies, young black girls, and then there were four boys. To be honest,
Wow.
let me paint the picture. I didn't have my first bed. Because I grew up in a bunk bed, and in those foster care systems, it was an 8 by 8 room, so 8 feet
Yeah.
by 8 feet, two bunk beds out at the top bunk. And essentially, I didn't leave that top bunk till I was 17 years old and went away to college. You're
Wow.
talking about at 17 years old, I had a grown man body. I was an athlete. So I slept at the
Hmm.
top bunk till I was about 17. And that shapes how much you can think you can do because you're limited in your environment. And eventually, I grew up and I grew out. But essentially, to me, carrying the stories of other those of like, and then you talking about trauma. We know how deep we can get with trauma and traumatic situations, things that most people think about. I've probably done, or I know somebody who has done that, and it's very unfortunate. But that's why I do the abundant mindset, the
Yeah.
positive mindset. Looking for the good in the worst situations. I'm talking about the worst, and trying to do the best. And for me, again, that avenue of staying active. I think for a young man's development, what I'm going to do with my sons and my daughters is staying active,
Yeah.
right? Sports, kinesthetic intelligence, something that Kobe Bryant's Mamba Academy talks about, right?
Okay.
Kinesthetic intelligence. When the body moves, right, it begins to heal, right? We go through body and stage developments that we can't control, right? We can't control when our
Right.
hormones hit. We
Right.
can't control when our body starts producing cortisol. We can't control, right, that our grandparents had certain stress hormones that we got passed down, and generations of some illnesses that may run. Exercise helps all of that.
Yeah.
Exercise helped me de-stress, put me in the right environment, got me the right team. It put me in a place where I can think myself out of the situation the same way our ancestors thought themselves out of slavery back when
Hmm.
in African American history. So
Yeah, I loved how you put that, that we, given the right circumstances and set of situations, so resources, we can think our way out of anything. I tell
yeah,
my kids all the time the same thing. I tell my wife too. I said, one thing I'm glad about is that God gave me a good and right mind.
come
You
on,
know what I'm saying?
come
Because
on,
with that, I know that I can think up anything and I can
yes,
think through anything and I can make anything happen. You know what I'm saying?
come on,
And so I love that you put that right here in this conversation because it is an important resource to have. And also to do the things that's going to nourish your mind and strengthen it so that when things come in your life, and you will experience things,
yeah,
right? But when things come in your life, you have the mental fortitude as well as the spiritual fortitude to really get through, and make that situation out of something that works for you rather than
right,
works against you.
that's right, that's right, 100%.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about faith. How
Sure.
did faith play a part, if any, in your journey of getting you to where you are now? Because I mean, you're doing a lot, which is some phenomenal work. But how did faith get you here?
Thank you. Yeah, as faith, my journey specifically.
Yeah.
When I was in my main foster home in Staten Island, it was ran. I think we have this ideology of who God is, right?
Hmm.
Usually, it's usually, associated with a father. And so my biological father wasn't in my life,
Right.
but I did have a father figurehead. Let me say that. He wasn't my father, but he played that role in the sense
Yeah.
of he was very militant. He was trying to raise boys into men. And
Yeah.
so, but he was also atheist, right? So he was somebody who didn't believe in God, like straight
Wow.
point blank. He was the God of his house, and his submissive wife. She come from very old school. We're talking about early 2000s,
Yeah.
and they come from the South, and so she submitted under an atheistic viewpoint. And so, even though she was a Christian, she was very legalistic,
Yeah.
early in the faith and things like that. And so that shaped my warp. I don't know what to believe at that point. And so she sent us to church because that was the safest place to go.
Yeah.
I didn't believe. I'll be honest. I didn't believe. I wanted the preacher would be saying to be true, but it wasn't until I had my first encounter with Holy Spirit, right, with
Okay.
God. I got my college scholarship, 17 years old. I was starter. My ego was inflated at 18. I'm playing ball. I'm doing it, dude. Right. I'm living this dream life. I started, experimenting with drugs heavily because when I'm away from college, away at college, I get depressed, got a little anxiety. I miss home. I had a little
Yeah.
girlfriend back at home. I'm missing my foster mom. I'm missing my barber. I'm missing everything. I'm in Upper Peninsula, Michigan.
And for a
And
black man, a barber is everything.
come on now, it's your confidence, right? That's your therapist and all that, right? I had the same barber for 15 years.
Yep.
So all of that hit at one time.
Yeah.
And I couldn't escape the negative voices, the naysayers. At 18 years old, my mind was so malleable. I started smoking and drinking. And then one night I went back to my dorm room after smoking it up with my friends and my teammates and all that. And, the negative voices wouldn't stop. I used the drugs to cope, and it couldn't cope no more. And so at one point I went to my dorm room and I said, God, right? This God, if he's real, right? The ones that the pastors talk about and the churches talk about, if he's real, I need you to show up right now, because if not, I'm gonna take my life.
Wow.
And in that moment, I'm high and drunk. I saw a little knife, a little blade at the kitchen, at the dorm room sink, and I was gonna take it because I was numb. I couldn't feel anything. Like, I used to fight a lot, and so when you fight, you don't really feel any pain until after adrenaline stops.
Yeah.
You add alcohol and weed to that, it's all she wrote. It's game over. And so at that age, I didn't see there was much to live for, because the season had ended, and God at that moment showed up. He sobered me up. I started sobering up at that moment. The effects
Mhm.
of being high and drunk left at that very moment. And
Wow.
I knew that there was a God. I didn't know if he was Jesus or not. I knew for me it was a God that cared enough to me to show up me. That was my altar call. Come to
Yep.
Christ moment. That Saul to Paul moment, or Saul to
Yep.
Paul moment. Road to Damascus, they call it. Yeah.
Yep.
And the next year I got baptized, and I ain't looked back since. I'm not saying that I went cold turkey on everything, because
Yeah.
I got
It's
sanctified along
the
the way.
process. Yeah.
Right, it's a process. But I knew at that moment I had to give my life to Jesus, and I declared myself as a faith-based believer, and I started walking my walk from that moment.
Yo, that's, I mean, for anybody to listen to, let alone some young guys, listening to this, that's enough to encourage anybody to say, really, no matter where you are in your mind or in your circumstance, God can come and reach you,
That's right.
right?
Show
And
up.
it's not the God of religion; it's the God of relationship,
Amen.
right?
Amen.
He'll come and really meet you wherever
Amen.
he's not afraid of it. He'll come
Amen.
and grab you because he loves you.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And so now you've come through all of this, and so now you're author. I mean, you're doing your thing.
Mhm.
So talk to me about that. You're getting ready to be honored, or you're a part of like this whole competition, with
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
authorship. W- tell people what's happening in your world right now, and how God has really brought you through with faith and with resilience.
Yeah, and I like what you said, that notion between religion and relationship. I
Yeah,
said on one of my spoken word pieces, I say religion requires rules, but relationship requires trust.
yeah,
We are his creation since he made us from dust, right? And so, trusting him is a must. The
yeah,
hardest part for me was to trust.
yeah,
I don't know what life is going to look like after I give my life to Christ, right? I don't, but I do know where I come from, and I don't want to go back there. I don't.
yeah.
And so it is trusting for me, because I didn't meet my earthly biological mom until I was 25. It was a
Wow.
process for me to trust God with everything. Give up basketball, give up the thing that gave me a tool out of the neighborhood, gave me, give all of that up, and it surrendering my heart, my life. And for especially for African American, for Black folks, right? We don't like the word submit, right?
Yeah.
Whether you're a man or a woman, we don't like submitting because we know where we come from, where we have to submit to the slaves. So the aspect of submitting to a religion or a church intellect, but submitting to God, whatever, you know, and I had to discern the difference between the two, what it meant to really surrender my life. I had to learn that for myself. And what that meant, it came with the aspect that God gifted me in writing.
Okay.
He did. He blessed me with the ability to write, to have this mind, put the pen to the paper, right, and let the world feel my pain. Really, it was a way of healing. It was a way of controlling my narrative. It was the way of liberating others. Because my first book was called "Be Your Own Hero," another spoken word keynote that I got from there. "Be Your Own Hero" was a liberating tool to help me feel my feelings without the fear of judgment. I think a
Yeah.
lot of us, we don't feel our feelings because, again, tough, resilient, right? Like even in the medical field, right? Our Black queens are killed at an alarming rate because the medical technicians and things like that think they have higher pain tolerance, whatever they
Yeah.
experimented us back
Yeah.
with this Tuskegee and all of that, right? And I thought I was that. I thought that I was this rock, not supposed to feel. Like I was told by the age of 8, real men don't cry. So all those ideologies, having to defeat them, right, was through writing these books. And each
Yeah.
book was a different turning page and chapter of my life. The first one was Be Your Own Hero. The second one was Cursed by Sin, Cured by Him, learning between what I learned in church and what I learned in actual relationship, right? Going to the origin story of everyone has trauma, right? In church and theology, they call it sin, right? It was something we broken relationship with Christ. And then after that was Empower the Hero Within. To have that with me. This is the one that I'm going for author of the year. So
Wow.
yeah, so this one was a curriculum. So I help, in educators.
Bring it up closer to the screen real quick.
Absolutely, yeah.
There you go. Yep.
Empower the Hero Within. Yep.
I
And
love it.
this acronym for H, honesty, E, empathy. I
Yep.
think we live in a world with empathy fatigue, especially post-pandemic. R is resiliency, and O is taking ownership. And so I believe everyone has these qualities that just need to be drawn out. The root word for educate is educare, educure, right? It's to draw out. It ain't to learn all that history that some folk write, right? The winners wrote. They say education, history is written by the winners, right? But we know it's 3 sides to every story. And I believe the truth is in all of us, right? And so this is the notion that I do now. I'm in student empowerment, student success. I wrote my first children's book. This one's out Juneteenth.
Nice.
And so I'm doing a launch with that. And so I'm in the children's book market now because essentially I'm independent as well. I'm not signed to a publisher. I launched my own publishing business.
Yeah.
And so those are all ways for God to show me how to own my own narrative, help other people own their own narrative. And essentially for me, of course, give God glory and everything. So this one's called Heroes Help Each Other. And
Wow.
so I don't longer think about my own hero. How can us as heroes come together, galvanize, organize, share platforms in this capacity in order to do what we love best, which is, to me, again, my personal conviction is to give God the glory and do the best I can, be a man of faith and raise my family.
Here's the brilliance, and I'll say this: there's a brilliance in every race, every ethnicity, every generation. But today we're highlighting the brilliance of Black excellence. Here's the brilliance of African Americans here in the States, and knowing what our ancestors came through, being plucked from their land, put at the bottom of slave ships. Some did not make it coming over the transatlantic, but many stayed. They had staying power. That's what I say. They survived and got over here into a land where many of them didn't even know each other, because the sad misnomer is that because you came from Africa, you everyone knows each other. No,
Yeah.
many of them didn't even know each other. They came from different tribes, different places,
Right.
but we came together as a people. We learned a new language. We created our own pathway. We helped build this country. And I'm listening at you, and I'm seeing the same power and grace exuding through you
Amen.
now in this generation.
Yeah.
Everything that was thrown your way,
Yeah.
still within you, God knew how to draw out that power that He placed inside of you and your lineage. And now you're coming up with ways to own your own,
Yes.
and to create your own narrative and to help other people. I mean, the power and the strength in that. Let's land right here. Talk about the power and the strength in Black excellence, and do you feel it? Do you feel
Yeah,
what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely, 100%.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
and it is because we do have uh, a similar lineage in which folks did survive trenches, hard. I mean, again, their name stripped from them.
yeah.
And the reason why that resonates with me in foster care, they do strip you of your name. You are a
Wow,
ward of the state. You are known by a number. They changed my SSN when I was younger. When I found my biological mom, I saw my original. So you got to realize
wow,
at 25 years old, all of this stuff is coming up. I'm like, whoa, when I was one, and that's what it feels like. I feel like I lived a second life now. I have this new identity to go and liberate the folks that, maybe still stuck in that way or maybe have questions about those things. And I give them a fresh perspective. That's
yeah,
what I do. I put, I believe perspective does shape our, our reality, our perception, right? Perspective shapes perception. How we perceive what happened to us when we were kids in former generations, that's where we can use that same concept to be able to move forward now in a
yeah.
healthy way. Again, in all transparency, I'm in therapy. I understand there's some
Sure.
things that need to, to be worked in when it comes to my personal character. I'm a man of faith, but I'm not perfect, right? And that's essentially a lot of people play victim. And don't get me wrong, I think it's necessary to have those conversations about what victimhood is without coddling a feeling. Like I understand things
Right.
happen, right? But this is where again, taking authority, right? Using I'm a man, I'm a grown man at that. I want to raise my boys into men. I want to raise my girls into young ladies, right?
Yeah.
Into women, right? And so that comes with the authority of understanding that I don't got time to cry. I cried when I was writing my stories. I cried about my mom leaving me at 1 year old because she
Yeah.
immigrated from Haiti. I did a lot of crying. But
Yeah.
my crying is done. Not in this season. In this season, it is to understand what liberation means. It is understand that Black leadership, ownership, narratives, and things like that are so important for our future if we want to survive, especially in this country, in today's
Yeah.
economy. And I just wholeheartedly, and this is what they see coming out of me. And I'm still learning how to navigate, knowing how to process it, and knowing how to paint the picture that God has given me when it comes to painting it. So
Yo, y'all, this is a phenomenal conversation, and you guys have to connect with Schwartz. And how can they stay connected with you? Of course, you have your books. We need to be buying them. We
yeah.
need to be supporting you in what you're doing. But how can they stay connected with you, and learn more and just follow?
Absolutely, yeah. My Instagram is probably my number one thing. That's mostly where the young folks are these days.
Uh-huh.
Instagram,
Yep.
Schwartzen.Precil. So this is my first, the period, and then Precil, my last name. And my website, where I have an online bookstore, and I have a publishing business called
Mhm.
HeroLeadershipGroup.com,
Love
spelled
that.
just like it sounds.
I
Mhm,
love that. I love that.
mhm.
And the information is going to be, guys, in the description below this video. I wish I had more time to just dig into this conversation. That just means we got to have you back. I know
Let's
you're
get
a
it.
busy man, but we've just got to have you back. We've got so many things that we're going to be doing through this vehicle of the Global Leaders Roundtable, and it's not just virtual. So we've got to have you back. Especially even in some live context as well. I would love that. Love that. Schwartzen Precil, everybody. This has been absolutely amazing. Stay connected with him. Um, this is what Black excellence looks like. But more than that, this is what excellence
Let's get it.
looks like. This is what it looks like when you're not perfect, but you yield yourself to God and you yield your life and your mind to God.
Mhm.
God can take you anywhere when you do that. And he could put you in rooms and places and on stages that would really just blow your mind. And I just believe there's so much more coming up, and that's in store for you, brother. I really do, and I appreciate you, and I'm rooting you on. And however I can be of service and support, please let me know that. All right.
I received that, Brother Kenyon. Thank you, man.
For sure, for sure. All right, hang tight, Schwartzen. Let's wrap things up, guys. This has been another Fireside Chat edition. Um, Man, I wanted like another hour. This was really good. I love great conversation. As you guys know, this is why we do this. And so Schwartzen has really just ignited something in me even, and I hope he did the same for you. I need every leader that's been watching. I need you to realize that your background is not your barrier. Your identity is not a limitation. It is the blueprint. by which God wants to build out your life. You were built for this. You were built for this moment. And he trusted you with that story on purpose so that you can go and do what he has called you to do. All right. Make sure that you sign up to be a part of the virtual summit. Listen, I am Kenyon R. Dudley. I'm your host. Make sure that you live boldly and that you live well. We'll talk soon.